Stephen Jones joins you now here on The Fan. Afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. How we doing?
Oh, we're doing great. Okay, so there's news on Jason Peters being out with a chest injury. What else can you tell us about it?
Well, I just, something that was bothering him this week, and more than likely, I know he wants to get in there and play, but more than likely we'll err on the side of safety here and keeping him well for the long haul. But we'll certainly check it out as we move forward tomorrow and then on Sunday.
All right, and speaking of Sunday, are you guys playing well enough to go in and take out the Super Bowl champs in their house?
Well, that remains to be seen. Obviously, you are talking about Super Bowl champs here, and, obviously a great place to play out there at SoFi Stadium. And, they've got a lot of great players on that football team, certainly, starting with Aaron Donald, probably the best player in the league, and go right on down the line, one of our hometown favorites, Matthew Stafford, who, I like to root for. Won't be able to this Sunday, but certainly his career has been amazing, topped off with that Super Bowl last year. But and then, this guy Cooper Kupp presents a lot of problems. So we're going to have our hands full, but, we feel like we're playing well and feel like we can continue to improve as we move forward.
Well, you got to feel great about the way this defense has looked in the first 4 weeks, specifically with the team's speed defensively. Is this the fastest defense you think you've had since maybe back to the 90s Super Bowl teams?
No question. I mean, obviously we've put this thing together, and, I always hats off to our personnel department. I think we do a great job of really listening to what coordinators, whether it be offense, defense, or special teams, are trying to accomplish, and then, go out and work with those groups. And obviously, Coach McCarthy at the head of the list, but working to, get the type of players that, can fit the scheme, can fit the play style, can fit what they're trying to get accomplished. And I think that's what's happened here on defense. Is we've got a defense that their play temperament, the way they play the game, really fits the personnel. I think really fits what DQ's trying to get done, and obviously have played, at a high level up to this point.
Now, as good as some of the defensive things are, I mean, and you guys are really good, but maybe you could use more run stopping. Why not go out there and make a trade and put this team in the front runner seat in an NFC that's kind of down right now, Stephen?
Well, I think it's got to be the right guy that fits, and certainly we keep our eyes wide open for this. I mean, certainly, when it comes to run stopping, you got guys like a Bohannon and a Gallimore and guys on our team that can do some of that, but we'll continue to see. I mean, a little bit sometimes you get that defense and they're all hungry for sacks, and, they're wanting to make plays at the quarterback, and then, sometimes you get a little overly aggressive and don't play your run lanes. I thought we did a great job adjusting last week, after they got off to the Redskins got off to a good start running the ball. I think we really did a good job adjusting at halftime and really, in my mind, slowing that down to a minimum as we played the second half. So there's obviously areas we can improve. If the right player shows up that we think makes us a better team that fits what we're trying to accomplish as a defense, then we're wide open to do that. Same holds true for the offensive side of the ball. If the right guy shows up that makes sense, we'll certainly be looking at it.
Stephen, what do you make of the low scoring and just across the league, defense is looking a step ahead of offenses through the first month or so of this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more so than normal, so you can't just say, hey, it's the first 4 weeks, but as a whole, usually what happens as the season progresses, these offenses get into sync and they move the ball better, and they have more production. But I do think even if you just compare the first 4 to the last 4 weeks, first 4 weeks of the season compared to the last 4 years, I think we're down a little bit for sure. I was on the competition committee and get those statistics, and there's no question we're down a little bit in terms of the offensive production up to this point.
Do you think you guys would have to look at another adjustment in the rules from the competition committee if the scoring doesn't bounce back?
You know, you don't do this knee-jerk on one season. I think you got to take the full body of work. You know, there's always the unintended consequences and, you know, things you learn on that committee. But it'll, you know, no question if there's any blinking lights when this whole season is done and you look and you're concerned about something, then you take a look at it. And just as we do every year. And certainly the way it's pacing right now, you know, if it stayed that way, we'd get in there and see if there's any things that we could do differently. I will say most people will say in this league, you know, that the rules tend to lend themselves to offensive production. So, but it's also certainly something that our fans enjoy. It's entertaining, you know, seeing touchdowns and big plays and, you know, seeing offensive players make those type of plays. At the same time, you know, it's, you know, it is nice to see some of these defenses stepping up, and we'll just see how this full season goes and then evaluate it.
Stephen, with Curse trending the right way of being available against the Rams this weekend, have you had to walk down to Dan Quinn's office and tell him, listen, don't take Donovan Wilson off the field, whatever you do, please?
Well, I'm not going to be the one telling Dan Quinn what he needs to do or not do. I think he's doing a great job. He knows how to use his personnel. He certainly feels what Dono Wilson's bringing to the table in terms of you know, his aggressiveness and making plays on the ball. I mean, he's had a great start to the year, and you know, certainly I see a lot of people are taking notice. You know, mentioning the three safeties, that they may be one of the best safety groups, which is unheard of, as you know, around here for the past 20 years, as safety hadn't been a priority. But certainly these guys are making a difference, you know, at the line of scrimmage, making a difference in the post and breaking on the balls. You know, hats off to that group of guys. It'll be great to get Curse back. I also, you know, give you know, Israel a lot of credit, and give Bell. You know, he's trying to learn from these guys, but stepping up when Curse is out. But it's a really strong group of safeties back there.
Stephen, if I could follow up on that, what changed then within the organization? Was it something that you and Jerry and Will sat down with the coaches, or, you know, you're absolutely right. I mean, you know, Darren Woodson, a legendary player for you guys, and it seemed like forever we couldn't find a safety here, and now you've got all these safeties. Did something fundamentally change with the evaluations with you guys?
Well, I think it's just, you know, being able to know what a particular defensive coordinator wants out of these guys. And, you know, again, I'll say Dan was great, and his staff were great with verbalizing what they were trying to get done. I mean, you look at it, Brian, and it's not it's not necessarily resources. You know, we got, you know, Javon Curse was a street free agent. You know, Hooker was coming off you know, an injury situation, and you know, we were able to get him on a 1-year type prove-it deal, and obviously Dono and Iz are 6th-round picks. So, you know, we were able to sign, you know, at the end of the day, sign Hooker and Curse back this year. And so, you know, it's just, I think more than anything, it's just defining what you want out of that position, finding that talent pool, and making it work. Now, the next step is going to be keeping those guys around. And as I said, we took a good step with Curse and Hooker, and, you know, Dono will be coming up here soon. So, you know, I think the biggest thing is communication as to what we're trying to get accomplished at that, you know, at the safety position.
Stephen Jones with us here on 105.3 The Fan with the GBag Nation. I think it's a fascinating matchup coming up between you and the Rams, and looking at how both teams are built. I mean, your club has the most homegrown players in the NFL, and then Les Snead walks around with a Bleep Them Picks T-shirt on. You know, what stands out to you about the way the Rams have built their team? There's no right or wrong, but it's two very different ways of doing it.
Yeah, well, that's my point. There's no right or wrong way. That's what I was going to say. And there's a lot of different ways to go about it. Certainly have to, you know, hats off to the Rams. They won a championship. So certainly you have to pay attention to that, you know, when the right situation presents itself. I also think at the end of the day that it's very important to build your foundation through the draft. And as you said, I think we're one of the better ones at having the homegrown talent, but I also understand that and I think we understand if the right situation comes along, to get a guy like a Fowler, to get a guy like a Hooker, former first-round type picks, to get a Basham, to get a Quinn that we've had here in the past. We've done that as well. But I think, one thing, I would say is we're not against, too, paying a free agent if it's the right guy. And we think he makes, the difference. In the meantime, while you do have these homegrown guys coming up, you're going to want to keep them around. And we all know we want to keep the Micahs and the Diggs, and I don't want to leave anyone out of that, but the Lambs and people like that, you want to be able to keep those guys around, because we all know you can't keep them all, but you do want to keep these guys that are playing at high levels here in Dallas. And as I said, if the right situation presented itself, then we feel like we can do that as well.
Stephen Jones here with us on 105.3 The Fan. Stephen, with the NFL warming up to sports wagering, we got to ask you as well. Coach McCarthy was great on this question, but do you think the Cowboys should be 5.5-point dogs to the Rams? Are they that much better?
I don't really pay attention to that, to those lines. I mean, they're, not something that we're involved in, but, I don't know how they go about making lines. The only thing I would say to anything in terms of us continuing to battle each week, which is a good thing, is I think all the players around Cooper Rush have stepped up. And anytime, you're without your franchise quarterback, which we are with Dak, then, probably going to see why some people feel, hey, you got an uphill battle that you're going with your backup quarterback against a Super Bowl winning championship team. So I understand that. I don't know how lines are made, and but I will say this: sometimes it's good to be in the shoes, be the underdog, and feel like you got to go in there and be more focused and more on top of your game in terms of playing at the highest level.
You're not a spread guy, Steven. You more over under prop bet kind of guy.
No, I'm not. I stay strictly because of the job that I'm in. I stay away from those type of things.
I was just busting your balls, man. That was not fair of me, Steven. Okay. Now let me ask you this: we have a legendary NBA fight that just went down this week in practice, and I'm curious: is there a Cowboy practice fight that stands out to you over the years that was pretty legendary?
Well, I'll tell you something that was, really got us on top of it. And, of course, Coach Fisher served on the competition committee with me as a good friend. But the training camp fight we had out in Oxnard was pretty epic when we practiced against the Rams. It got pretty rough, and I think Aaron Donald was right in the middle of that one with Zach Martin. And, it got a little feisty out there. But that one's probably the one I said, oh, my, this is getting to be pretty, this is escalating here, and I think we ultimately ended up calling off practice. Of course, Jason was our coach, and Coach Fisher was theirs, but since then, I think we've done a good job with these training camp practices because I do think they can be productive for teams in the preseason there, since we're down to 3 games, and obviously we're limited on some of the things we can do with practices. I think they're productive, and it is up to the organizations, in particular the head coaches, to make sure you can go out there and not have those type of things. I'm sure the NBA feels the same way, and I know the NFL certainly feels that way, that we're trying to, keep as little of that, trying to keep what little there is out of our game.
Did you ever catch yourself in any scuffles there at Arkansas or anything in your playing days, Stephen?
Not that I recall. I mean, we were pretty disciplined team under Coach Hatfield, and he had a zero tolerance for that type of for penalties and personal fouls and things of that nature. So, we were coached up pretty good, to step away, and I think he did a good job of that resonating with our group. But ultimately, inevitably, you're going to end up, you're going to get 2 guys that are going at each other, and the chirping that goes on, sometimes you're going to have it escalate to a push or a shove, and unfortunately, sometimes even more than that. But I think overall we do a good job. You can always be better because you're always going to have some of it, and your goal is to have none of it. But that's probably not realistic when it comes down to these guys competing against each other.
Have you seen the video of Green and Poole?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's worth a Google. Clean. It's a good shot.
I'll need to take a look.
Get a little popcorn ready and rock and roll.
That's the guy you want in your corner. Thank you so much, Stephen. Give him hell out there. We'll be pulling for you.
All right, guys. Thank you.